driving the 2014 Mazda 3, a car that was 35 years in the making. The year is 1977, and this is where the Mazda 3 started, with the GLC, which stood for Great Little Car. Great's relative, but it was definitely little in a car. You have to remember, in 1977, men got perms and wore polyester pants. The Corvette in 1977 had 180 horsepower. That's less than the new Mazda 3. You know, even though it doesn't have much power, the GLC is incredibly lightweight and surprisingly nimble. It literally has the bones of an RX-7. This is what the RX-7 was built on. And so you can really kind of feel that as you throw it into a corner. As long as you're going downhill, you can feel the nimbleness and the balance in this car that you really wouldn't expect from looking at it. I think that was the key to why this car was such a huge hit. Besides being fuel efficient, reliable, spacious for its size, and flexible, it was surprisingly fun to drive. By the 80s, of course, the GLC went front-wheel drive. Then a couple years later, we went ahead and changed the name to 323. So Mazda decided they wanted to build a version to compete in European Group A rallying. And to do that, they had to build a homologation car to qualify it as a production car. That's what this is, a 323 GTX. Turbocharged, intercooled 1.6-liter twin-cam engine, four-wheel drive with a lockable center diff for when you get on snow or loose gravel, and a suspension that could handle at least a couple of jumps. It was a really brilliant car, about 15 years ahead of its time. By the late 90s, we changed the name again. This time we're calling it the Protege. And the Protege was really built on the same fundamental architecture philosophy as the 323 had been. Independent struts all around, a nice rigid chassis, and a really surprisingly nimble handling balance. The team at Mazda North America saw the potential in the Protege and decided to build this special model, the Mazda Speed Protege. When it came out, Sport Compact Car called this the best handling front drive car they'd ever driven. You know who wrote that? I wrote that, and then I went to work for Mazda. For 2003, the Mazda 3 name finally appeared, and the new Mazda 3 was really a huge departure from the Protege and 323 before it. It was a much bigger, more mature, more sort of well-rounded car. Mazda 3 still had the nimble handling that the Protege was known for, but backed it up now with enough power to really support that handling. And that goes double for this car, the Mazda Speed 3, which had 263 horsepower and an absolutely ridiculous 280 foot-pounds of torque. The Mazda 3 was an instant hit. It was the fastest Mazda ever to reach 1 million sales. So the Mark II Mazda 3 carried over the body structure and the suspension from the Mark I, but we pulled ahead the Sky-Extra-G engine that we were designing for the Mark III Mazda 3. And that engine got us more power, more torque, and dramatically better fuel economy. And since the old Mazda 3 chassis was still so good, even 8-9 years into the production of the Mazda 3, it was still winning almost every comparison test it was in. So the Mark I was already in production when I started at Mazda, but I got to actually work on this car. I got to spend a lot of time on twisty mountain roads like this, dialing in the handling, getting the steering feel right, really making sure the car was fun to drive. I was really proud of the way this car turned out, but it's nothing compared to the new one. We really have always made Mazda 3s handle brilliantly. They're really nimble, really well balanced, really fun to drive. But our big focus was to keep that strength, but improve the everyday drivability and make it so that even in your commute to work, you can feel this directness and this linearity and this real intuitive driving response. And at the same time, when you do find yourself on a fun road like this, the kind of road that we really tuned the car for, you can just have a blast with the car. While I was doing the chassis development on this car and the steering and handling, I was also working on our new infotainment system. I really understand how important it is to have your vision and your focus outside of the car. So we put the screen really high on the dash, directly in your field of view. We put the commander down here so you can anchor your elbow and operate the commander. You can operate it by feel with tactile feedback, so you don't have to look at the screen. And we put a heads-up display directly in front of the driver. Your speed, your next turn on your navigation will pop up where you can see it without taking your eyes off the road. So in the end, what we have here is a car with more power than a 1977 Corvette and better fuel economy than a 1977 Mazda GLC.